Hello and welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Cathryn Naiker. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Hope you're all enjoying the beautiful sun, the amazing June basketball we've got going on here. Absolutely incredible stuff. We've got the Pacers up 2-1, a sentence no one thought they were going to say a week ago. Everyone, please remember to like, subscribe to this podcast, leave a positive review, all that good stuff. We got some really positive comments last week. Thank you for that. I appreciate you all so, so much. We've got some very interesting topics today. Of course, we're going to talk about the finals. We've got this crazy Knicks coaching search saga, weird conversations about NBA ratings, which I have thoughts on. Wemby's a monk now. Developments for All-Star Weekend. We've actually got a lot on the docket today. So let's talk about these finals. Indiana up 2-1. I absolutely love this. I think the thing I love the most about this is that all the great minds of the NBA, every great analyst, no one thought this would happen. You know, so many people who I love and respect were doing podcasts just about like, how do the Pacers beat OKC? And no one was doing a podcast about it the other way around because they all just thought it was obvious. And, everyone's just trying to like put their collective thoughts together. Oh, this is the strategy. That's the strategy. And Rick Carlisle's just ahead of all of you because he's the coach, right? He's the coach. He knew. It's like you're not a coach if you don't see a path to victory, right? Rick Carlisle's just been ahead of all of us. Indiana doesn't care what anyone thinks. And I remember last week on this show talking about the fact that when you look at all the numbers, almost nothing is in Indiana's favor. But then you just look at their trajectory to get here and you ask yourself, are they just fated? Are they just fated to win a title? Because that happens with teams sometimes. Like it's just in the cards for them. And you can't explain it with stats, etc. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I'm not saying right now like Indiana's going to win. But I'm just saying, what if? What if all these advanced analytics for this series just didn't matter and it was just in the cards for this team to win, which I think is very possible. Last week I said my head thinks Thunder in 5, my heart thinks Thunder in 6. I'll tell you where I stand here in a minute. I'm just going through my notes here. And there's interesting stats that people are throwing around, like the Pacers haven't lost 2 games in a row since like March. Very impressive. But I don't read too much into stats like that because I'm like, well, the Pacers also haven't played in June in like 25 years. So I think the finals are just a different beast. And you can't really, I think people are just searching for stuff because no one knows how to explain the success of this Pacers team other than the fact that they're awesome and they've been on a winning trajectory pretty much since January and no one noticed. Like that's the thing, myself included. But, we're here to have fun. This is Buckets and Tea. I am not, one of the NBA's great analysts. I mean, I listen to all of them to form my own thoughts, but I'm not one of the NBA's great analysts, as we know. So really, it's like they were just paying attention to all this other stuff. Granted, the Luka trade was hella distracting, right? I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on that was very distracting, but just no one saw them coming. And it's like, okay, guilty. And I'll have more to say about that when I talk about this whole stupid ratings conversation, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. The other ridiculous take that I hear is that Shea needs to quote unquote step up, or that it wasn't a quote unquote great Shea Gilgeous-Alexander game. This whole team you win or lose as a team. Like Chet's been struggling. They changed their starting lineup, which was confusing because now they have less depth coming off the bench. Alex Caruso had a bad game 3. Like, if you remember the Raptors championship, which I know you all do, in that finals run, like particularly in that final series, different role players stepped up big time every game that we won, right? Like Siakam had a huge game 1. I remember Serge Ibaka had a good game. I remember Danny Green came up and finally had a really great game after struggling for a lot of the playoffs. Fred VanVleet had that phenomenal game 4 with got knocked in the head and the tooth came out and all that. I mean, you had different role players step up, and that's exactly what's happening with the Pacers, right? Like Benedict Mathurin last night has 27 points off the bench. Was it 27? Let me just confirm. Yeah, so it was 27 points in 22 minutes. He went 9 for 12, 4 rebounds. I mean, and it wasn't even a lot of threes. He was 2 for 3 from 3. So that's just a hell of a mid-range game, right? And you need that. You need your Benedict Mathurin game. So I think for OKC, that's what they need. They need their Alex Caruso game, right? Like they need those games where their role players step up and just are lights out and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this player is having the game of their lives," right? And every final series has players like that. And I just feel like so much is on Shea that he needs everyone else around him, which they have all season long. This is a good team. So in game 4, I'm looking at the role players, whose game is it going to be? Who's going to step up? Who's going to put their name and say, this is the, Benedict Mathurin game. This is my game. That's really what I'm looking at OKC to have. So my thoughts are this. I'm recording this Friday morning. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, first of all, thank you so much. I've had to pause a couple times because I'm battling a cold. I just have this lingering cough. So if you're wondering why it's a little choppy, it's because I've paused to cough and then come back. I'm not overly editing the podcast. I never really do. So just FYI. And thank you for supporting Gem Cuts. Okay, here are my thoughts. I'm recording this Friday morning. We've got game 4 tonight. A lot of people are saying if, whoever wins game 4, that's the series. I think that's oversimplifying things. I'm looking at who's going to win tonight, but also how. What I mean by that is this. If OKC wins tonight, and a lot of people are predicting they are, I think they will too, but we'll see. If it's a close game, all bets are off, and this is a true best out of 3 series between games 5, 6, and 7. If OKC wins and it's another blowout, then I do think they go on to win the whole thing. And whether they do it in 6 or 7, I'm not sure at this point. But Indiana hasn't had a blowout win in this series. But if they get blown out twice by OKC, then it's going to be hard to predict Indiana to win. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for just who's going to win tonight. I'm looking at how they win. And I think that's going to be really important and really crucial going into the rest of this finals. If it's a close game, it becomes a best 2 out of 3 situation, man, then I think game 5 might as well be game 7. That's kind of how I see that. But if game 4 is a blowout and it's OKC on the road, they just come back and they just stomp them so hard. I mean, I can see the team winning 3 in a row, right? Like Thunder in 6, I feel is still really in play. They if Indiana's embarrassed at home, then they have to go back to OKC for game 5. You can see OKC taking game 5, and then they're just like, okay, let's end this. I see that path quite a bit. But if tonight is close, Also, I mean, if Indiana wins tonight, that would be crazy. I mean, everything they've done this whole playoffs has been crazy. Crazy good. Um, then yeah, Indiana could win in 6. I it's so hard to predict someone winning on the road in a game 7. Obviously, we have seen that before with the Cavs. Just one of the greatest finals ever. But I mean, anything's possible. Good lord. This team, this Indiana team makes everything impossible to predict. I think what do I think? I think game 4 tonight, if it's a blowout, OKC can take the whole series in 6. If OKC wins tonight and it's close, I think all bets are off and truly anything could happen at any time. If Indiana wins tonight, I don't think OKC comes back from being down 3-1. And then everyone's going to have all these stupid conversations about Shea and his legacy and this, that, and the other. And all of that will be stupid because this is such a good team and they're really young and they can bounce back and they shouldn't, I mean, they really shouldn't even touch this roster going into next season for the most part, or truly, like, don't even touch it. Like, leave it alone. They're a great team. They will win. If it's not this year, they will win. And this would just be like the adversity that they have to go through. So that's what I think. That's what I think. I still think OKC is going to win this series. Do I think they're going to win this series? I don't know. I mean, I've been rooting for the Pacers fully. Like, I like rooting for an underdog when I don't have, when I'm not really in the fight. I don't know, man. But I've been loving it. I've been absolutely loving it. Okay, so for some reason surrounding this NBA finals, there's been this real BS ratings conversation like, oh, the NBA's ratings are the lowest since, like, I don't know, like 2007, 2008 or something. But that's just like TV broadcast ratings, and it doesn't count all the social media stuff. It doesn't count any streaming, any illegal streaming, obviously, and in other categories. And in other categories, they've been absolutely thriving. And so Adam Silver was on the broadcast for Game 3 describing all of this stuff, and I'm just like, why? Okay, you want to grow the NBA, you want to help the NBA. Why are we asking Adam Silver on the broadcast about ratings? Like, I don't know. I just feel like any anybody could piece all of that together, right? Like, I just feel like somebody sees like Nielsen ratings, which, like, who even has like a quote unquote Nielsen box, you know, plugged into their TV and subscribes to cable still. Like, what the hell? Um, this whole thing's stupid. However, there are things about this broadcast that I feel could improve. One of which is, like, I love how every year in the finals we do interview the commissioner. I think that's a good thing. But to ask him about ratings is a real waste of time. Honestly, like, we should be asking him about, like, I don't know, like, what are his plans to, like, continue to grow the league? How does he feel about the league growing more internationally and stuff like this? What about this whole BS face of the league conversation? Like, who do you think is the face of the league right now? Stuff like that, I think, personally, I would be more interested in than his thoughts on ratings. And, Adam Silver answers all his questions very much like a politician, really. But still, that's what I would want to know. The other thing I feel, well, I think I talked last week about the final script. I can't remember if I mentioned that. How, like, the iconic final script wasn't on the court and stuff like that. And then they heard our complaints, all our complaints, and then they put it on digitally, which frankly doesn't have the same effect. It just doesn't have the same je ne sais quoi to it. Like, I just feel like I this is a bit of a tangent, but I feel this way too about all the jerseys and the city jerseys and stuff like that. It's like a logo has to stay the same for a long time in order for it to become iconic, right? Like every iconic logo in business has been such a way forever, right? Like all the car logos, all the, Nike, Adidas, whatever, like I mean, even the franchises in basketball, like the Lakers, like they don't change their logo. You know what I mean? They don't change their colors, they don't change their logo. Like that's what it is. And I feel like the NBA constantly trying to switch things up to like, I don't know, I guess sell more stuff. It hurts the iconicness of the brand. You know what I mean? Like that final script should just always be there. And then people, they see it over the years, they almost become nostalgic for it. Players grow up and then they're like, "Oh my god, I'm finally on this court with this script on it. I've dreamed of this." Like that's what you want. So I feel like why would you take that away? Bring it back digitally. I guess there's no time to put it on for real. But like, ugh, it just weakens the brand, I feel. The other thing with the broadcast, so there's been all this talk about how like Doris Burke might not come back next season and stuff like that. And then Rick Carlisle in his post-game presser, I think this was after game 2, was like defending Doris Burke. He's like, this isn't really, his I don't know, his jurisdiction or whatever, but Doris Burke is amazing, blah blah blah. All facts. But just surprising that this would even happen because like frankly Doris Burke is not the problem. Okay, I'm just gonna go off here. If anything, there's two issues. One, you have 3 people and it's just too many. You only need 2. You only need 2 people doing the play-by-play. The other issue, in my humble opinion, is Richard Jefferson. I have nothing against Richard Jefferson or anything like that. It's just he on the broadcast, he's always doing this like jokey thing with Mike Breen, and like he's always going back and forth with Mike Breen with these self-deprecating jokes. And one, Doris Burke is never in on the joke, which I think is an issue. And 2, this is the finals. And I feel like they're broadcasting this game like it's a regular season game. And then Mike Breen's iconic like bang call that everyone talks about, he's just using it so loosely. I think I talked about this before, how like he's just been using the bang call like so loosely now. And it just loses all its effect. And I feel like when I tune into the finals, I want to listen to people who are treating it like it's the most important thing. Of course, it's not the most important thing, it's just basketball. But when I tune in, I want to believe that this is the most important thing happening right now. And I want you to be in the moment. I don't want you, being self deprecating, jokey, unless it's a blowout, in which case, sure. You know, like I don't want any of that. I want it to be in the moment. I want it to be serious. I want it to be intense. I want to have the analysts right away. I don't want you going on and on disagreeing with a call well after the call is over. Like if the refs have moved on, you should move on. I mean, there was that one play where they were like, is this a flagrant, is it not a flagrant? Richard Jefferson thought it was a flagrant. They go to Steve Javie, which I find deeply unnecessary. They go to Steve Javie, he's like, this isn't a flagrant. The refs determine it's not a flagrant. And then we move on, and Richard Jefferson's going on and on about why he thought it would be a flagrant. It's like, move on. Like, I find this really annoying that the network thinks they have a Doris Burke problem. They don't. I want to hear what Doris Burke thinks in the moment of the game. I want her analysis, right? Like her analysis, sorry, is so spot on. Like, that's what I want. And I feel like Richard Jefferson, even though he's a former player, he's not really giving me that in the broadcast. Like, he just wants to be the funny guy. And it's like, that's great for when you're doing the ESPN in studio shows, when you're with like Kendrick Perkins or whatever, right? Like, give us that in that moment. But in the broadcast, in the moment, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what you think. I want to know the plays. I want to know if they're doing a zone or anything weird like that. Like, that's what I want. And I feel like I would rather have Doris Burke there than not. And I think ESPN needs to stop doing this like 3-person thing on the call. It's one too many. Just have 2 and it'll work. It'll work. It's always worked. So, all this like ratings BS and stuff like that. It's just like these little things that happen on the broadcast all the time. And then even the other ESPN shows where they're just like constantly criticizing the sport. And it's like, that can't help. If you're a sports fan, like just a general sports fan, and you're tuning into ESPN and they're constantly criticizing the NBA, I mean, that can't help. So I don't know. It's this weird thing where I just feel like the network is like shooting itself in the foot sometimes, because it's like, it's in your best interest for people to think that this is the most important thing right now. But then your, packaging of it all doesn't treat it that way. So I don't know. That's kind of my 2 cents on it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree, if you'd rather have more of the jokey stuff, all of that. Okay, let's talk about the Knicks. They fired Tibs last week. We talked about that. I talked about how I felt it was an emotional decision. Since then, it's come out that they have attempted to interview Ime Udoka, Chris Finch, Jason Kidd, and Quinn Snyder, all of whom are under contract with their respective teams, all of whom they had to ask their team permission to interview those coaches, and they declined. The team was like, no, you can't interview them whether they have interest or not. And like, of course, what team is going to be like, yeah, sure, interview our coach. We don't mind having to then lose our coach and then find a new one in July after the draft. What? I mean, the audacity. It's hilarious. And like, I didn't hear anyone else say that they felt that the Tibbs firing was an emotional decision. But I feel like this, in some degree, is proof of that, because people are saying that this is proof that the Knicks didn't necessarily have a plan when they fired Tibbs. Like, when they fired Tibbs, they didn't have like strong candidates or ideas of who they would want to bring in. They're just looking around the league like, who's a strong coach? And it's funny to me because it's like, if you're a coach in the NBA and you're not on this list, and like, oh, the Knicks haven't contacted my team to interview me. Like, imagine like you're Nick Nurse. You're like, hey guys, I'm here. You can interview me. Doc Rivers is like, hey Knicks. Like, all these coaches that would rather be like not in their current situation but still have a job, or just like, hello. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who they're gonna hire. I mean, think about it. All the championship level coaches have been hired and fired since, being let go from their team, except for Mike Malone, who Mike Malone is too similar in style to Tibbs that you'd basically just be running the same thing back. Although maybe that's not the worst thing, because look at how far Tibbs got you. But clearly they don't have any like assistant coaches in mind, or whatever, like assistants who have recently won a championship or something like that. I don't know what they're doing. I just think the audacity to only go after coaches who are already under contract is really, really funny to me. I don't know who they're going to get. I just think it's ridiculous. It's funny. I mean, and if you're even like if you're Quinn Snyder, you'd be like, "No, let me interview with the Knicks," you know? Why not, guys, you know? Even Jason Kidd, apparently Jason Kidd is eligible for an extension. So there's a bit of a gray area here with the Jason Kidd scenario. So that's something to look out for. But like obviously Minnesota's like, no, you can't interview Chris Finch. And Houston's like, no, you can't interview Ime Udoka. I mean, like, I don't know, like is Joe Mazzulla next? Like they're just gonna go after like, hey, we want to interview Eric Spoelstra. Like, I just man, like it's incredible how far the Knicks have gotten considering how dysfunctional they've always been. So it feels very Knicksy that this is happening. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about All-Star Weekend. I know it's June, but they've announced that they're finally going to do the US versus International All-Star Weekend. I'm so excited. This is what I've wanted for years now. I've wanted this. And they're finally doing it. This is amazing. The immediate criticism was, is someone going to get an all-star spot that wouldn't have gotten one without this format? We're going to dispel this right now. I thought, you know what? It's only June, but I figure let's get this out of the way. And then when, you're out in the world and you're talking hoops with your friends and they give you this BS argument, you're going to be ready. You're going to be ready, and I'm here to help you out. Okay. So what I did was I just started making a list off the top of my head of the best international players. Okay. We've got Shea, we've got Jokic, we've got Luka, we've got Giannis, right? Like those are like a very obvious top four. Then we've got Wemby, we've got Embiid if he's healthy, we've got Siakam, we've got Sabonis. Gobert, nobody likes Gobert, but he's routinely an all-star, so he's on the list. We've got Sabonis. We've got Lauri Markkanen. And I've listed two here who have not made an all-star team yet, which is Franz Wagner and Jamal Murray. And that's 12 players. And Jamal Murray and Franz Wagner are very, very deserving of an all-star nod. I mean, I think Franz could easily just get it this coming year, even without the format. And Jamal Murray only hasn't been an all-star because he's on the Western Conference. Like if Denver were an Eastern Conference team, Jamal Murray would have been an all-star by now. So I think all of this is ridiculous. Like that list I just came up with off the top of my head. There's maybe more. Maybe I've missed somebody. Let me know if I've missed someone who you think is an international all-star. But the argument that maybe, an American might get left off the team. Fine. I'm fine with it. Like Trae Young, I actually still have some love for you, but respectfully, I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't an issue. It's a non-issue, and we're addressing it now. So you're prepared. So I am prepared for the haterade that is going to come. And we will have our list ready. Like, literally only Franz Wagner and Jamal Murray on this list of top 12 haven't made an all-star team yet. And they should. They should be all-stars. They are all-star worthy players. If there's injuries, that becomes a different conversation. How do you deal with injury replacements? Frankly, on both sides, how do you deal with injury replacements? We'll get there when we get there. But just so you know, the international team is stacked. It is full. I love this. I think people are finally going to be hyped to play this game. I mean, I know, nobody wants to get injured, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to see anyone get injured. I'm not saying they need to play, quote unquote, that hard. They just need to care at least a bit, at least in the fourth quarter. Give at least two shits. You know, that's all we want. We just want you to care a little bit, care enough. And frankly, the All-Star game does matter because if you win an All-Star MVP, this, that, and the other, you know, how many times you make the team, all of that is part of someone's Hall of Fame credentials. So I don't know why we're acting like none of that matters. Of course it matters. It all matters. Um Wemby's a monk now. This is amazing. If you haven't seen it, Wemby's been in China. I don't know where exactly. I apologize, but he's been seen, like, you know, with his head shaven, hanging out with monks. He's off the grid right now. Um, there's a Chinese basketball account on Instagram that had a video of Wemby, I guess, learning Mandarin. I apologize. I don't know if it's Mandarin or Cantonese, but learning the dialect and saying, like, happy Dragon Boat Festival. Happy Dragon Boat Festival. That would be an amazing thing to go to. I'd love to see a Dragon Boat Festival. Um, you know, getting into the local cuisine, learning the language. Like, Wemby is such a smart guy. Like, he might be one of, like, the smartest NBA players. Like, he could, like, Wemby strikes me as someone that could just compete on, like, regular Jeopardy. Like, not even celebrity Jeopardy, just Jeopardy. You know, like, he's just a really, really smart guy. And I love the fact that he is going off the grid. You know, he's taking a full body, mind, soul approach to healing from his blood clot issue that took him out of the season. And just to improve as a player, as a person. Like, he just seems so well rounded. And I love that he's taking this approach. I personally think this is an approach that more athletes should take. There's so many athletes where I'm like, you should just be off social media. You know, you don't necessarily need to be off the grid entirely, but just at least off of social media. Like, you get enough exposure being an athlete that you don't necessarily need it to, like, fuel your brand. I mean, and there's just too much hate out there anyways. So I love Wemby so much. I've been so on board with him ever since I knew he existed, which was, you know, sometime before the draft. He's been on my fantasy team every year. First year I won. Last year I was runner up. So not bad considering I lost him. Yeah, I love everything about this kid so far. So shout out to Wemby. Okay. Hottie highlight of the week time. We're giving it to Nav Bathia. Our friend Nav, he's been in Indiana. He's been wearing a Canada Siakam jersey. Oh, I love this so much. And he really does represent us all. You know, he represents all of us with his Hyundai money. Is it Hyundai or is it Honda? It's Hyundai, right? His car dealership. Anyway, he's out there with his car money, flexing for all of us. Um, really, really appreciate him. Love the Canada Siakam jersey. Okay, here's a crazy take that I don't think anyone's going to disagree with. I want Siakam to become a Canadian citizen and then play for Team Canada. Okay? Because Team Cameroon is just not on the Olympic board. Okay? Like, they're not there right now. I want him to play for Team Canada. I think that'd be amazing. And I feel like Nav wants that and he's willing it into existence with his jersey, with his presence. Okay? So I absolutely love that. Honorary Canadian, Pascal Siakam, play for us. And thank you, Nav, for representing us in our fandom and how in our feels we are with this series and how much we love it, how much we love, you know, individuals on both sides, all the Canadians, of course, and Pascal playing, you know, incredible basketball. Andrew Nemhard, his defense on Shea. Oh my God. How did I not talk about this earlier? His defense on Shea and everybody talking about Canada basketball and their rivalry and them acting like, oh, it's nothing, blah, blah, blah. But they've known each other since they were kids. Oh, so juicy. I love it so much. And everyone is like, yeah, like Andrew Nemhard's not scared of Shea. He knows all his moves. You know, he's known him since he was a kid. It's like whatever for him. Oh, just adds to the beauty of this matchup. I'm gonna wrap it up there. I thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. If you were watching on YouTube or if the audio was a bit spotty, I had to pause so many times to cough. I'm so sorry. I just have this lingering cough for like several weeks now. So hopefully by next week it's gone. Can't wait to see how the rest of this finals unfolds. You know, Raptors Republic has been doing really great draft coverage. After the finals is over, I'll dive more into the draft and see, you know, aside from Cooper Flag, who are the people to look out for, who the Raptors might look out for, and all that good stuff. Hopefully, I have a guest for that because I'll need a bit of educating myself. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.